you ever found yourself crying during the first 10 minutes of a Pixar movie and have absolutely no idea why? And if you're thinking to yourself, no, you haven't, I have one question for you.
You ready? Why the you lying?
Okay, no, but seriously. Maybe it hit you during Toy Story 3 when Andy hands Woody to Bonnie and says goodbye to his entire childhood. You weren't just reacting to a sad moment, you were walking straight into a carefully engineered emotional blueprint. Pixar doesn't just make kids movies, they've been designing emotional traps since 1986. This is the formula Pixar uses to make grown adults break down in the dark, and why it works on you every single time. Let's start with the feeling itself, because Pixar isn't just making you sad. They're pulling you into something much more emotionally sophisticated than that, and far more powerful. The emotion that Pixar is usually aiming for in their movies isn't just sadness. It's a far more complex and frankly more potent emotional cocktail, and psychologists call it poignancy. So poignancy basically happens when you feel happy and sad at the exact same time. It's that bittersweet ache that arises when we're confronted with something beautiful that is ending, or a memory that is both joyful and painful to recall. We understand that life is a mix of light and dark, and that one often gives the other its meaning. Pixar's storytellers are masters of manufacturing poignancy. They build entire narratives designed to lead us to these moments of mixed emotions. So how does Pixar exactly make you feel both joy and grief in the same breath? There's one scene that doesn't just explain it, it embodies it. And even though you've probably seen it 100 times, I bet you've never broken it down like this. Hey, if you could do me a favor, and if you're enjoying this, just go on and tap that like button. I really appreciate it. The married life montage from Up is legendary. But seriously, psychologists have even used it in lab studies to induce crying in participants because it's so reliably effective. But why? It's not just because Ellie dies. If it were just a sad death, it wouldn't have that same impact. It works because it compresses an entire lifetime filled with as much joy as sorrow into just a few minutes. We see Carl and Ellie meet as adventurous kids. We see their wedding, how they build a home together, their shared dreams. We witness their quiet, devastating heartbreak when they learn that they can't have children. And then we see them find happiness again in each other, growing old. The music, the wordless storytelling, it all builds a foundation of pure, unadulterated happiness. So when the sadness does come, it's not a standalone event. It's the end of something beautiful that we just watched bloom. You aren't just crying because an old woman died. You're crying because a promise was left unfulfilled. You're crying for the happiness that was, the love that was shared, and the crushing reality that all beautiful things are, by their very nature, temporary. It's the happiness that makes the sadness so unbearable. That collision of joy and loss is the very definition of poignancy. And it's a feeling that resonates most deeply with adults who have experienced their own versions of love, loss, and the relentless passage of time. But Pixar doesn't just rely on fictional love stories. Sometimes the tears come from a much more personal place, a place that already lives inside of you. This brings us to Pixar's second great psychological weapon, nostalgia. Nostalgia is a sentimental longing for the past, a feeling that is itself bittersweet. It's the warmth of a fond memory mixed with the sadness that you can never truly go back. And for adults who have a deep well of personal history to draw from, nostalgia is really an incredibly powerful emotional trigger. And Pixar, what do? They expertly weave this into their narratives. Take Toy Story 2 and the heart-wrenching When She Loved Me sequence. Jessie's song isn't just about a toy being abandoned. It's a gut punch anthem for anyone who has ever felt outgrown or left behind. The scene hurts not just because we feel for Jessie, but because it forces us to remember our own faded friendships, our own packed away childhoods. And this is taken to its ultimate conclusion in Toy Story 3. The film was released 15 years after the original, meaning an entire generation of kids who saw the first movie in theaters were now, like Andy, heading off to college. And that's just pure genius. The film's central theme of growing up and saying goodbye wasn't just a plot point for the characters, it was a lived experience for a huge portion of its audience. The final scene, where Andy gives his toys to Bonnie, is devastating for this exact reason. As he describes the role each toy played in his life, He's not just giving away plastic figures, he's passing on his own history. He's saying goodbye to his past. And for anyone who has packed up their childhood bedroom, the moment is almost unbearably relatable. You're not crying for Woody and Buzz. You're crying for the bittersweet pain of your own life moving forward, whether you're ready for it or not. But what if I told you the emotions go even deeper than memory? Because Pixar's most powerful trick isn't just nostalgia or storytelling, it's biology. And once you see how they use it, you'll never unsee it. So we have poignancy and nostalgia. But there's another layer here. Pixar's ability to make us cry also relies on their mastery of creating empathy and their deep understanding of emotional maturity. First, empathy. Pixar characters are often designed with features our brains are hardwired to respond to with care. Ethologist Conrad Lorenz calls it the baby schema. Large heads, big eyes, chubby cheeks. These features signal youth and vulnerability, triggering our protective instincts. They're all deliberately designed to look cute and helpless, which makes us instantly feel for them. When we see these characters in peril or in pain, it really triggers a powerful empathetic response. We feel their helplessness, which psychologists say is one of the strongest triggers for crying. But this empathy is filtered through the lens of adult emotional understanding. The film that explores this most directly is Inside Out. This movie was praised by psychologists for its stunningly accurate portrayal of emotional science. For pretty much most of the film, the character Joy believes her job is to keep Riley happy at all costs, pushing sadness aside. This is a very childlike view of emotions. And then the film's profound climax comes when Joy finally understands that sadness isn't a problem, but a vital part of a healthy emotional life. Sadness is what allows Riley to connect with her parents, to signal she needs help, and to process her sense of loss. Adults watching Inside Out cry because they recognize this profound truth. They understand that some of their most meaningful moments of connection and growth came from allowing themselves to be vulnerable and sad. It validates the complexity of their own emotional world, basically confirming that every feeling, even the painful ones, has its place. By now, we've peeled back pretty much every layer of the emotional blueprint. But what does it all mean when we step away from the screen? What's Pixar actually giving us beyond the tears? So, the next time you find yourself getting choked up during a Pixar movie, just know that it's not by accident, it's by design. You're not just reacting to a sad story, you're experiencing a sophisticated work of psychological art, one that's been deliberately engineered to resonate with your adult mind. They lay a foundation of joy to make loss feel more profound, creating poignancy. They tap into your personal history to trigger the bittersweet ache of nostalgia. They design vulnerable characters to trigger your empathy, and then tell stories that celebrate the complex, messy, and beautiful reality of emotional maturity. Pixar movies make adults cry because they don't shy away from the fundamental truth of the human condition, that life is a fleeting, beautiful, and often painful journey. They remind us that endings are what give stories meaning, that memories are precious because they can't be relived, and that joy and sorrow are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin. And in a world that often encourages us to hide our vulnerability, that honest reflection is more than enough to bring a tear to the eye. It's a cathartic release, a shared moment of understanding, and a reminder of what it means to be fully, complicatedly human.